Okay, just a reminder to go ahead and put your name and your instructor's name in the chat box so we have record of who's attending here virtually. And all of you that are here with us physically, if you make sure that your name is down on our papers up here. And welcome to our review session. So happy to have everybody here with us today. And disadvantage of technology is problems. Advantages, now we can actually see what people virtually are saying as we go along. So we got pros and cons here. All right, so just to get started on what we're doing here, we're going to go through each of the 4 goals that will be on the test. Remember, the test covers units 5 and 6 only. And we'll each take a goal and try to breeze through those quickly and give you a good idea of what, at least some of what you need to be prepared for. Okay, so, and if you have a question or whatnot, if you'll just type your comment into the chat box, I'll just be lowering hands if you put them up, because I would prefer that you just type in your comment or your question. Okay, so just a little disclaimer here. This doesn't necessarily mean that we'll cover every minute detail that's going to be covered on the exam, but I will say it's a fairly good review, I think. Get you in a good position. I won't spend much time here. Y'all have been through 2 exams. This exam is no different as far as the number of questions, the time you have on it, the points. It's all same layout. The 4th exam is also the very same layout. The only difference with the 4th exam is it only covers unit 7 instead of 2 units. All right, just a reminder that the readings, participation questions, projects and quizzes, and for those who are doing it online, the discussion boards are all great places to go to get extra help as well as the study guide for the exam. All right, I'm going to jump right in since we're a little behind schedule with the technical difficulties, and I'm going to jump in and talk about goal 9. So first of all, this chart is talking about investing in your money and yourself. So what does it mean to invest in your money or invest your money? Sorry, we don't have an overhead speaker, so we're going to pass a microphone around. Okay.
So investing your money means to purchase purchase an asset that could be liquidated at a later date, either gains some sort of interest, while investing in yourself means to grow your human capital and your skills.
Good. Okay, so investing in your money, you're actually looking for it to grow. And then you answered my second question is investing in yourself, which would be investing in your human capital, which hopefully will turn into financial capital. So if you look at this graph, it starts out when you're young, you've got a lot more human capital, or at least you're working to obtain more human capital. And then as you get older, maybe that human capital will start to diminish somewhat, and hopefully your financial capital is going to increase. So you're replacing your human capital with your financial capital so that you can have what you need to make it through retirement and reach your financial goals. Okay, so from there, let's look at this question. Which of the following are steps in successfully navigating the job market? So it says steps, so that kind of gives you a cue that there's probably multiple answers here. But which of the following are steps in successfully navigating the job market? The first one being establish life goals in line with career goals. The second one is get a job offer. The third one is evaluate a job offer. Fourth one is accept a job offer. And the last option is all of the above are successful steps to navigate the job market. What do you think? Anybody out in virtual land have a... Okay, so some of you are saying all of the above. Now I purposely gave you this question, and it is I wouldn't say it's a trick question, but it's one you got to read carefully. And I purposely put this one in here because you'll see one very similar to this on the exam. And part of it's testing to see how much you pay attention to the details. So notice that first one. Read that first one carefully. Establish life goals in line with career goals. What have we harped on in the second unit about your goals? What should come first? Your financial career goals or your life goals? Your life goals should come first. But this is saying that you should establish your life goals in line with your career goals. In other words, have your career goals in place first and then figure out what your life goals are. And that's the opposite of what we want you to do. And another reason why we put this question in here, and you've got to read it carefully, is because we want to drive that point home even more, that too many of us get distracted by our career goals, our financial goals, and we forget that we need to back up and figure out what our life goals are first and then make sure that our career goals and our financial goals are aligned. Okay? So the correct answer then is get a job offer, evaluate a job offer, and accept a job offer. Had it said establish career goals in line with life goals, then you would have said all the above. Okay? Any questions there? All right. Now, the next thing I want to address is pre-production, post-production, pre-production, production, and post-production. So what do we do in the time frame of pre-production? What is pre-production and what do we do? Colton online says invest in yourself. Okay. Do you have something to add?
Yeah. So pre-production is when you're not really gaining any money, but what you're really gaining is human capital.
Okay.
That's pre-production. You build your human capital that goes into the production stage.
Good. And Amanda online says build human capital. And Johnson maybe says receive an education, which is what you mentioned as well. Okay, good. So you're investing in yourself. Education, experience, you're getting ready to cash in on the labor market. You're trying to get yourself prepared for the production phase. Okay? How about in production? What are we focused on? So in pre-production, we're focused on getting ready to go into the workforce. So in production is when we're actually trying to build our financial investments, right? So we can take what we've gained in our human capital, turn that into financial capital, and then invest that in things like transaction accounts, intermediate accounts, investment vehicles, options through our jobs such as retirement plans, maybe education savings accounts. Basically what we're doing is saying, okay, we have our human capital, we're turning that to financial capital, and then we're making that financial capital go to work for us so that we can reach our financial goals, ultimately reaching our life goals. And then finally we've got post-production. And that's where you're basically cashing in. You're saying we're starting to decumulate retirement. In other words, we're starting to spend down what we've saved up over our working lifetime. So there's a question that says something like this. It asks something about developing plans for financial capital to fund life goals. And it asks which stage does that go into. So developing plans for financial capital to fund life goals or to continue to fund life goals. And for me, if I was to answer that question, I would say both production and post-production, right? Because you're developing your plans to make sure that that money will last both during production phases and post-production. But I'm giving you a big hint here that the answer to the question is post-production. Okay, so if it asks you about when should you be developing plans for the financial capital that you gain, basically what it's saying is you've gained this financial capital, now you need to make plans for it. The answer on the exam is post-production. I would suggest that we would also want to put that in production because we need to make plans all throughout. But the answer on the exam is post-production. Any questions on that? Did I confuse you with that? Okay. Is that? Okay. All right. Another question. And this actually goes along with what I just talked about. So this will help you hopefully. Can you repeat the last question? Excellent. So the question, and this actually goes into it, so this will be helpful. Let's do this and see if this clears it up. During the pre-production stage of life, here's your options. Find employment opportunities in line with your career goals. Develop plans of financial capital to fund life goals. Work to transform human capital into financial capital. Determine your career goals and your career path and invest in yourself. So based on what we've talked about in the pre-production, which of these would fall into the pre-production stage? Everybody think it was the last one? You're right. That's when you determine your career goals, career path, and invest in yourself. So backing up to the previous question that I said, if it said something about the post-production stage, then you would choose develop plans of financial capital to fund life goals. Even though it may sound like that might fit into both production and post-production, and actually, honestly, pre-production too, that might fit into all three stages. For the purposes of this exam, you're going to choose post-production. Does that help for those? Let's see, it was Matthew and Jennifer that asked for repeating the question. Does that help clarify that? Okay. Excellent. Okay. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about the 5 steps to navigating the job market. So we've talked about this one already, establish career goals in line with life goals. If the question says establish life goals in line with career goals, then you know that's wrong, okay? So you need to identify what those life goals are first. Get the job offer, evaluate the job offers, negotiate the job offer, and accept the job. So what I want to focus on is maybe some of the things that you can do now, because maybe right now you're still a year, 2 years, or at least a few months away from being on the job market. So getting the job offer, evaluating the job offers, negotiating, maybe that's a little bit out, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those. But what can you be doing now? So what are some examples of ways to take advantage of opportunities now to prepare for the job market? What do you think? Those out in the virtual land, join us and give us some thoughts of what can you do now? Okay, Eloy says education. Good. What else? Go to career fairs. Excellent. Internships. Good. Research. Resume workshops. Gain experience. Okay, we're getting a good list here. Let me just throw out a few. So internships, going to career fairs, networking, going to conferences, student associations, practice interviewing, good. Submit resumes, good. So a lot of good ideas. What you want to do is just be thinking about some of these ways that you can work now to prepare for the job market, regardless of if you're on the market or not, right? Some things you can also be doing now is to assess your values and interests. We already mentioned networking opportunities. Match your abilities and experience in education with your chosen career field. Those 3 that I just mentioned are actually 3 options on a multiple choice question. What you don't want to do, let's see, I think I have this question. Let me see. Yeah, here's the question right here. What you don't want to do is the top one. So which of the following are key steps to successful career planning? Aligning yourself with current popular majors. Okay, what's wrong with that? Why not align yourself with current popular majors? Yes?
You wouldn't want to align yourself with popular majors because a popular major may not be exactly what you want to do later on in life. So if you found that engineering was popular, but you didn't really like math or anything, but you still wanted to go into engineering because it pays well or something like that,
yeah,
you're probably going to be miserable later on. So it's better to just assess what you like and go about finding a career that best suits you.
Yeah, just because all your friends enjoy doing it doesn't mean you're going to enjoy doing it. Or just because all your friends claim they enjoy doing it doesn't mean they're enjoying it. Right. So if you see a question about this, that should be a red flag to you that is either the wrong answer or if it's saying which one is wrong, that would be the right answer. But anyway, this is not what you want to do. Instead, you want to look at yourself, look at your values and interests, look at the opportunities you have, take advantage of those, and then match up what you're good at and what you enjoy doing with your chosen career field. Okay, very good. Thank you, and thank you for comments online. If you don't like it, you're going to be unhappy, and not everybody is going to enjoy the popular majors, even though a lot of people are signing up for them. Okay, true or false? Salary is always the most important consideration when evaluating a job offer. False. Good. There are lots of considerations. And if it was just about salary, then a lot of us would be doing things we don't like doing, or in locations that we prefer not to, or we may be sacrificing other things that are important important life goals in order to get that high salary when there's a lot of other things that are potentially really important. Okay, good. All right, I think this is the last thing. Yeah, so last thing I'm going to address before I turn it over is a little bit about negotiation, and then also, well, we're going to come back to human capital a little bit. So you may remember this slide, timing of negotiation. And here the key is to just know when is the best time to negotiate. Number one. And number two, what all can you negotiate? So when you first get the phone interview, probably not a good time to negotiate. And once you've signed a contract, it's too late, right? So once they've decided that they like you, and they want to offer you a position, that's the ideal time to negotiate. And things to consider are, is there room for negotiation? Sometimes it's flat out, this is it, we can't do anything else. But it usually doesn't hurt to at least ask and then find out, okay, yeah, no, there's no room for negotiation. But if you don't ask, you won't know that. And then if there is room for negotiation, what about the extras? It's not just about the money. Maybe there's some other benefits that you can negotiate, or maybe there's some vacation or other things you can negotiate, or maybe it's moving expenses that you negotiate. Lots of different things that you can consider. But if you do it too early, then you're looking pretty greedy, and the employer's probably going to be not too interested. And if you do it too late, then you just can't negotiate, right? You're done. You've already contracted. But there's things like salary, bonuses, vacation, hours, location, maybe additional education opportunities, car, phone, or computer allowance, parking, conferences, memberships, associations, different things that you can negotiate as part of your salary. Okay, here's a good one that's very similar, or maybe exactly, I can't remember, to a question you'll see. A college degree will generally give a person a blank slope to their earnings curve compared to a similar person who does not complete high school. Okay, steeper, right? You have more potential to go up quicker on your earnings. Probably start higher and then go up quicker if you have a college degree. All right, very good. And I think it's your turn, Chris. See if I can do this without blowing their ears off.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to talk to you about investing. So this is really the how, the when, and the why of investing your money. So first off, just some terms. So the difference between saving and investing. So saving just means that you have more income than expenses. So saving could just be stuffing money under your mattress even. There's really, there's nothing driving that. Investing is where you take that money and you use it to grow wealth. So you're not just like holding it, you're actually building it. You're doing something to help you out in the future to help you have more of a savings account. Or sorry, more of a retirement account. Okay, so when to invest. This is very important. You need to be able to live within your means. Maybe do a practice savings run where you save $500 a month, and if you can stick to that for 6 months, then you know you're kind of getting ready to save. But beyond that, really, you should start with making sure you have an emergency fund. So this is going to keep you from having to go into your investment accounts should something pop up. maybe you need a new hot water heater, your car breaks down or something like that. Your emergency fund can cover you through times like that and keep you from having to pay fees and taxes whenever you have to take money out of an investment plan. So insurance is also important here, especially like disability insurance. You need to protect yourself and your earnings. Otherwise, something unexpected could happen. Maybe you're sick for 6 months. All of a sudden, you have no income going in. That could also make you go after your investment accounts. Whereas if you're properly insured, you don't have to worry about that. So really, if you can kind of do all this, you can live within your means, then you know that you're ready to start saving. So this, obviously, younger is better. For saving, you're going to have way better returns. You have way more of a timeline to earn. But just make sure that you're ready before you jump in. Okay, so why invest? Really, it's all about consumption. You're basically pushing money from your earning periods into the future for when you're not earning. So this can be huge, especially back in like the 50s or 60s. You know, people didn't expect to live that long. The life expectancy was 50 or 60 years old. Now we're looking at like 78 or 79 as the average life expectancy for somebody born. So there's a lot more time in retirement that we have to worry about. So that's making saving for retirement a lot more important. Otherwise, you're going to be 80 years old working somewhere, and you don't want to do that. You'd rather be enjoying your time. So it's really about being future-oriented and knowing that you would rather save some of this money for later on in life. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. So some people are present-oriented. That means they prefer to spend their money now. Others are future-oriented. That means that they focus on the future. They would rather save their money for later because they know that they'll enjoy it more then. So the difference between these is really up to you. It depends on your risk tolerance, how you feel about stuff. So you kind of just need to know your own risk tolerance, take one of those questionnaires, and figure out how much risk you're willing to accept. So along with risk comes the concept of liquidity. So liquidity is the ability to convert your asset to cash quickly and without loss of value. So there are some assets that can be converted quickly, but you may lose money to get it done like that. There are others that may take a while, but you wouldn't lose any cash value. So it's important to realize the difference between those. So is that coming through on the recording, right? So as you can see here, we have a list of some liquid and some illiquid assets. So liquid assets at the bottom, these are ones that you know you're not really going to lose your principal. So you're not really in any risk there. So because of that, you're not going to get a high return off of it. Anything moderate risk, you will stand a chance to lose some of your principal. So it's going to be a little riskier, but because of that, you're going to get higher returns. Now, as we move to the top with the highly illiquid assets, these are ones that are going to have a really high return because you're taking a lot of risk, but you also could lose your principal because of that risk. There's some other problems with this too. These are a lot harder to cash out. So think of real estate. You own a home as an investment product. Say then you get ready to sell it. Well, you can't just sell it today. It's going to take you at least a month or two to find a buyer, go through all the process. So that's what makes it so illiquid. You don't really have access to the money right then. So because of that, because you don't have access to it, that's where the high returns come in. You have to be compensated for tying your money up like that. So that's kind of where the concept comes in. Okay, so it's important to know that risk is volatility. So basically what this means is you could have a high return, say you could make 20% one year, but then you could lose 20% the next year. That means the stock is super volatile because it could have high gains or it could have high losses. So if it's something that's more in the middle, say you make about 2% every year, that's not very volatile because it returns about the same amount. So volatility is all about how much the stock kind of jumps all over the place. If it goes up, it goes down, things like that. So volatility is basically what you're getting rewarded for. If there's more volatility, you're going to get a higher return off of it to kind of convince you to invest in that type of product. Okay, so be very familiar with this pyramid. It'll help you answer a lot of the questions on the exam. So basically the way you want to look at this, assets at the very bottom of the pyramid are extremely safe. You won't lose your principal in any of these, but because of that, you're not going to get a very high return. So that's kind of where the trade-off comes from. So the danger of these accounts is you lose out to inflation. So inflation is basically how the cost of things go up over time. So you may have heard your grandparents say like, oh, when I was your age, a loaf of bread was 10 cents or something like that. Well, the difference is due to inflation. So if you're not investing in some accounts that have decent returns, you're basically just losing out to inflation. So that's the problem with the investments at the bottom part of this pyramid here. I also want to mention that treasury bills are in the bottom part. I know we may have not talked about that in class or anywhere, but they are very safe. The only risk that you face with the treasury bill is basically that the government goes completely under. Otherwise, T-bills are backed by your government. So that makes them extremely safe investments. So once you get into the middle ground here, these are a little more risky but have a little more return because of that. So a lot of people will invest in the blue area here to try to beat inflation and to make sure that they have a pretty good return. As you move up higher, though, into the red section, so these are very risky assets. You could stand to lose all of your principal. With some of them, like futures, you can stand to lose even more than your principal. So these are extremely risky, but because of that, you're going to get some really high returns. So you might use these investments if you have a lot or a lofty goal in retirement. You're going to need maybe 10 or 20 million, something like that. Well, then obviously you're going to need to take on more risk to try to get those returns. So the goal of all this is diversification. Basically, diversification says don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread out your investments. If you're investing in stock, invest in at least 20 different stocks. That way, if one does really good and one does poorly, then the ones that do well will make up for it. So basically with diversification, you're cutting down on the amount of years where you have losses. So what you pick kind of depends on your own risk tolerance, how you feel about these investments. But proper diversification would be, say, maybe having 2 investments from the green, 2 from the blue, and maybe 1 from the red, just depending on your tolerance. If you don't feel like being that risky, you could just do 3 from the blue and a couple from the green. So it really all just kind of depends on you. So there are some investing strategies that you'll need to know of. So diversification, I kind of already talked about. That's the idea of spreading your risk out by having a lot of different types of investments. So asset allocation, that's kind of tied with that. That's more just the exact amount. So that's deciding, hey, I want 30% in bonds. I want 60% in stocks, and I want 10% in a REIT or real estate, something like that. So that would be asset allocation. A buy and hold strategy is basically exactly what it sounds like. You buy an investment and you basically just hold it until you get ready to sell it off at retirement. So this was kind of popular maybe back in the earlier years of investing. It hasn't been as popular lately. So the last one, dollar cost averaging. So this is where you decide I'm going to invest, say, $1,000 a month in this one, whatever the asset is. So you invest that amount each month no matter what the price is. So what this does is if the price is really low, you'll buy a lot more of it because it's a better deal. When the price is high, you won't buy as many shares, but you're also not buying a lot whenever it's super expensive. So this kind of allows it to average out to have a pretty decent price overall. Okay, so let's go through some questions really quickly. So which of the following statements is correct? Okay, everybody in here saying the first one, the person should consider investing only after establishing an emergency fund. Right, that's definitely correct. So let's talk about why some of these are wrong. A person should consider investing only after paying off all of his or her debts. What's wrong with this statement? Right, exactly. So someone in the live review says it depends on what the debt is. So there are good debts. Obviously, you don't have to have your mortgage completely paid off. Obviously, a little bit of student loan debt is going to be okay here. There's some tax advantages to those. That's another reason why we don't say that you have to have them all paid off. But just watch for keywords and stuff like that. Okay, number 3, should consider investing only after having a job. Well, there could be somebody who's kind of in between jobs. Maybe they have a lot of money built up. They could definitely still invest. And the last one, should consider investing only after he or she gets married. Obviously, that one's just in there to try to confuse you. Okay, so I can't write this question out on the screen, so I'm just kind of walk you through it, and then we will post the solutions whenever we post slides later. Okay, so this question asks you to calculate the capital gain or loss on a transaction. So we know 100 shares at $23, and then we turned around and sold them a year later at $27, and also paid some commissions on that. So it asks what the capital gain or capital loss was. So first step is just to take the amount of shares and multiply that by the price. So you'll get 2,700 earned on the sale, and you only paid 2,300 for it. So that'll give you a difference of $400. So it's tempting to just say, okay, the problem's over. I made $400 there, but you have to account for the fees. So you need to subtract that $40 commission and the $35 commission out of that total, and that'll leave you a $325 capital gain on the sale of the stock. So I know that may be a little confusing without the visuals, but like I said, we'll make sure that you all get the calculations for these. Okay, so the next one's pretty much does the same thing, except for you sold it later and didn't make quite as much off of it. So the important thing to know about this one is just because it seems like you make a gain, you need to factor in those fees and stuff. So at first this looks like you make a $50 gain, but once you account for the $40 commission and the $35 commission, you're actually at a $25 loss. So be aware of that. Okay, which of the following is the least liquid investment? Okay, we're getting some futures answers in here. That is exactly correct. Futures are extremely risky, and you tie your money up, therefore they're very illiquid. Another way, if you're kind of stuck on these, is to just pull up that chart with the triangle on it, and remember that the ones at the top are the least liquid, the ones at the bottom are the most liquid. Same thing goes with returns. The ones at the top have the highest returns, the ones at the bottom have the lowest returns. Okay, so which of the following is the least liquid investment out of these? Right, these are getting a little bit tricky, but this one is the option. Same kind of thinking on this, just go to your chart, look at the very top. Okay, put the following in order of decreasing liquidity. So decreasing liquidity, that means we want decreasing liquidity. So we want the most liquid first. Wait. Decreasing liquidity. Decreasing liquidity. So we're going to want the least liquid at the end. Yeah, that's right. Bonds, mutual funds. Yeah. So don't pay attention to that. It's actually the third one. That is increasing liquidity. Sorry about that. We'll fix that once we get the slides out. Okay, and I just wanted to add this matching in on the end. We already kind of talked about this. So I'm actually going to skip over this so that we don't run over on time. But I've provided the solutions here, and these are all pretty basic. Just make sure that you know the difference between them. Okay, now I'm going to pass the presentation over. You guys can learn about banking.
Hi, this is Chi, and I will talk about the common banking and the investment products. First, we want to introduce two different roles as an investor. The first is you invest as a lender, which means this kind of investment is you put money in your bank saving account, you buy the 1-year CD, you invest in the money market. That is the role you invested as a lender. And also when you purchase the bonds, you're actually lending the money to either the government or the corporate. So when you purchase the bond, you are the lender of that amount of money. And when you invest as a lender, it's a less less risky. The reason is, for example, if something wrong with the corporate went bankrupt, the corporate has a responsibility to pay off its debt first. So you actually, when you're lending money to the corporate have to pay off your debt first. Then after paying all the debt, the corporate will go to the stockholders to pay off the stockholder. So that go to the other role as an investor, the owner, which means you buy the corporate stock, you own the business, you share the risk with the business. So you probably will receive a higher return because you share the risk, but remember the owner has higher risk. So this is two types of the investor. Then we will cover different types of account. There are 4 types of account. I think the most important thing which gonna be tested in the exam is you need to make sure the difference of these 4 types of accounts and the order of the liquidity of these 4 types of account. Just please do not only remember the name of the account, like the transition account or intermediate accounts. Make sure you know the different invest vehicles inside these 2 different accounts. So the test question will ask which invest vehicle has the most liquid asset. So basically the cash is the most liquid asset, then followed by the CD and the money market funds, then followed by all the investment vehicles such as bonds, mutual funds, stock. So remember the cash has the most liquidity. And the next part will cover the diversification. So Chris covered the part of the diversification. The goal of the diversification is reduce risk. Just like this picture, you see the investment A going up and down, and the investment B going up and down, but they're going into different positions. So when you combine them together, you actually have a smooth risk line as a dash line here. So the goal of the diversification is reduce the risk. And there are some automatic ways we can use to diversify. The first is the mutual fund. The mutual fund has different types, basically 2 types, the active managed and the passive managed. The active managed, when the mutual fund is active managed, the manager is actually chasing return higher than the market return. So there will be frequent transitions for the active managed mutual fund. But the passive managed mutual fund is like the goal of the passive managed mutual fund is to track the market. It's not beat the market, it's track the market. So basically there is not too much transitions for the passive managed mutual fund. And the exchange traded funds, which is called ETF, is very similar to the passive managed mutual fund. The goal is to track the index, track the market. So because there's not too many transitions, so the ETFs has lower fees and a lower risk. And the next thing is the REITs, the real estate investment trust. Basically very similar to a mutual fund. You pool money together and invest into different kinds of real estate. But because the investment target is real estate, so it will be the REITs will have higher risk than the mutual funds. Okay, next we'll go to the questions. The first question, for regular household, the most convenient way to invest for retirement is to, which one? Yeah, the correct answer is C, the targeted date fund. Make sure you know what is a targeted date fund. I think it's in the reading materials. And can anybody tell me why the option D is not a correct answer? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very close. You cannot put money out of the house. You probably need to, lose some financial benefit to liquidate the house. So that's the reason why we do not choose to purchase a house. The next question is the true or false. The 401k accounts, money market funds, and the futures are all types of investment vehicles. True or false? True? Okay, I see several false from the online. Actually, it's false. Yes, you need to make sure the difference between the investment accounts and the investment vehicle. So I have a very simple example for you. When you purchase a car, the car has a value, right? So you're going to receive money when you're trying to sell it. So the car is actually the investment vehicle, which going to grow. The value will grow, but the car won't grow. Just for example, the car has a value. The investment vehicle has a value. But when you put the car in your garage, the garage will be the investment account. So actually your investment vehicle is under your investment account. So here the 401k accounts and the money market funds are actually investment accounts. The future is the investment vehicle can grow by the value will grow under the account. So that is the difference. I am pretty sure this question is going to be tested in the exam. Okay, so the next question is, which of the following are true about ETFs? Which one? I think this question is, yeah, it's multiple choices. So the answer is B and C. This is two characters of the ETF. They have lower fees and they're tax efficient because the goal of the ETF is to track the market. So the next question, corporate bonds are the less risky type of all investment vehicles, true or false? So can you name the bond which is the least risky? Yes. So the government bond is least risky than the corporate, especially for the T-bills. Next question, financial risk is eliminated through mutual fund investments because the fund is able to diversify investment, true or false? Yes, right. The key word here is eliminated. We can never assure eliminated. We just decrease the risk by diversify. So that's the answer. Okay.
Thank you, Chi.
Try to be fast.
Okay, guys. So let's now talk about goal 12, the last goal, and talk about retirement saving accounts. So first thing that we need to know is the difference between defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans. Anybody knows the key difference between these two? So who is contributing into defined benefit plans? Employer, that's right. So the key difference is that employer is funding defined benefit, but for defined contribution, employee also can contribute. So if you see a question, contributors for defined contribution can be employee and employer, okay? Also, another important difference is who is making investment decisions. So for defined benefit plans, employer is gonna take risk and makes making investment decisions. But for defined contribution plans, you are gonna take the risk and making investment decisions. And so just think about it. If you are employer and you want to take risk, you prefer to take, as just a really minimum amount of risk for your retirement plans. But for defined contribution, because employee are gonna just invest and make investment decisions, so they can just simply match their portfolio risk with their risk tolerance. Okay, so that's why we can say that, on average, defined contribution plans, they have higher, rate of return. So the next important thing that you need to know here is vesting schedule. So you don't need to actually need all the calculation. Just make sure you know that we have two types of vesting schedules. We have gradual schedule and cliff schedule. So for example, if we have 3-year cliff schedule, it means that you have to stay with your job and with your company for at least 3 years to get the money in your retirement account. So for example, if you leave in the second or first year, you don't have the ownership of your retirement account savings. I think that's that we need to know in this slide. So next topic is RA, or individual retirement arrangements or accounts. So we have two types of RAs, traditional and Roth RA. The key takeaway here is that you need to know how taxes work in these two different types of accounts. So for traditional RA, basically your contribution can be tax deductible, and so you're gonna pay taxes when you are distributing from your traditional RA. So in other words, earnings grow tax deferred, and you need to pay taxes later. But for Roth RA, basically your contributions are not tax deductible. You are gonna pay taxes now, but later on when you start taking money out of your Roth RA, your money is gonna be tax free. All right. So this is really important, and there's a behavioral component here, because when you are retired and you don't work and you start taking money out of your Roth RA, you don't need to pay any taxes, and you're going to be maybe more happy, happier, right? So, yeah. So we have a question here.
So when you're taking out taxes from an IRA, so when you have an IRA, when you're younger, like say if you started an IRA when you're like, I don't know, 22 or just out of college, would it be better to do a Roth since you pay the taxes now?
Exactly.
You won't have to pay the taxes later.
That's a very good point. Exactly, that's right. So when you're younger, because you are in a lower tax bracket, so it's better to pay taxes right now and use Roth IRA, and then later on you don't need to pay taxes. So definitely when you're at a higher tax level, so Roth is definitely a smart decision for you. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so another important difference between traditional RA and Roth RA is that traditional RA has a minimum distribution requirement. So who knows how it works? Minimum distribution requirements. Or let me repeat my question. At what age, it kicks in, and why it's important? You wanna take a shot?
Doesn't it kick in about 67-ish? Or
Just go high. Yeah, exactly, Jennifer. So 7.5 years. That's right. So when you reach 7.5 years old, then RS will say that you had enough of tax-free growth in your accounts, and it's time for you to pay taxes. Okay, so IRS forces you to take out money and pay taxes, and that's why we have required minimum distribution, or RMD, each year from, of course, traditional RA. So this difference is really important. consider. All right, and what's the best way to save? So first of all, you need to make sure you contribute to your 401k first, up to employer match only. So because you want to maximize the amount that your employer will match, because it's kind of a free money for you. Okay, but after that, you want to switch to Roth IRA because it doesn't have any minimum distribution requirements or RMD. Also, it doesn't have any age limit to contribute, and more importantly, you pay taxes now when you are younger, and you will get a tax-free distribution later. Okay, and then you can come back to 401k, save into your 401k up to your maximum annual contribution, and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure you don't have to know the maximum annual contribution amounts, and we're not going to test you on that. Okay, we don't have this table in the in the textbook, but I'm pretty sure it's really helpful for you. So make sure you have this when you are taking your exam. You just need to know how taxes work for Roth IRA and traditional IRA. Also, make sure you know age requirements, RMDs, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go through some of the questions here together. Which retirement account has tax-free growth? Roth IRA, exactly. Okay, next question. Contributions to traditional IRA are always tax deductible. Exactly, that's false. So, just be careful of terms like always. These are just really scary. Okay. You can only contribute up to the deductible limit amount to traditional IRA. Is that? Yes, that's right. That's false. Why is that? Exactly. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay. So you still can contribute to your traditional IRA, but once you reach the limit, you cannot deduct, taxes. Exactly. That's right. All right. So here we have some TVM questions. I'm pretty sure you guys are TVM experts right now. So, and unfortunately, I cannot type here. I don't know. Let me try this. Let me try, because I really want to show you how to, oops. If I type here, do they say it? I don't know.
As long as it's over on that screen.
Actually, yeah, the police will show up back.
Yeah, you got to be over on that.
On this one?
Yeah, they can see anything on that screen.
Okay. All right. While I'm doing this, just think about this question. So the question is asking about, what annual rate of return do you need to earn to have 2.5 million saved for retirement in 25 years if you have $50,000 now and save 2,250 every month. So what is N here? So we are talking about, solving for annual return. So annual return, we don't know. We want to calculate it. So what is N here? 25. 25. What's that? 25 times 12, which is 175. 300? Yeah. And then present value, how much you have right now? Yeah, 50 grand. And what is your PMT, your recurring saving? You're going to save, yes, exactly. So the signs are also important. So also the sign for present value is negative because, you are going to put money out of your pocket into a retirement saving account. Also, you're going to save each month for 2250. And then how much you will get at the end of 25 years. What is your future value? 2.5 million. Exactly. So if you solve for this, what is the question? Anybody has calculator here? 2250. Yeah, it should be 4.5 if I remember correctly. Yeah. Okay. Okay, excellent. Let's go to the next question. Next question is really similar. So this one is asking to calculate for your monthly saving, okay? So for the other question, actually we are looking for PMT, right? Let me just quickly change these. So what is N? N is 25 years, so 25 times 12, 300. And then your current saving is 50, negative sign is really important here. Your interest rate is 5%, so you just need to push 5. And we have the same future value. So you're going to need to put this in your calculator and find the PMT or monthly saving, and it should be negative sign. Oh yeah, exactly. So, and also you need to be, because we have monthly compounding here, you also need to adjust interest rate as well. So interest rate is 5 divided by 12. You have a question? What's that? Oh, this one? Yeah. Yeah, but when you are entering interest rate, you don't need to convert it to percentage. Just put 5 times divided by 12. Yeah, that's why I just. And then you solve for a PMT, which is going to be a negative number. All right, so next question. Sarah just started a new job. Her employer has 401k match of 75% of her contribution. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. That's right. And contribution up to 6% of her gross salary. And Sarah's salary is $55,000. She contributes $2,500 of her gross income to the 401k every year. So the question is asking how much total money will be deposited into her 401k this year. So you need to, calculate the total contribution, which is her contribution plus employer match. Her contribution is $2,500. Okay, so we have $2,500 plus employer contribution. Okay, so her employer contribution is going to be, first of all, you need to calculate the 6% of her gross salary, which is 300, okay? And then the next step is that you compare the 6% with her actual saving, which is 2,500. So because 2,500 is smaller, so it means that her employer is gonna put 70% of her contribution, which is 2,500. So 75% of 2,500 is 1,875, I guess. But this is the amount that actually her employer is matching, right? So you need to put 2,500 plus 1,875, and the total saving into her 401k account is 4375. Okay, so now she is saving this much. All right. Any questions? Okay. Our next question is asking, it's the same question, but now we should calculate the free money that she is missing out. So what does it mean? So it means that, well, her employer is willing to match up to 6% of her gross income, but because she is just contributing 2,500, she is missing out, the difference. So first step is to, again, calculate the 6% of, oops. It's so hard to type it in. 6% of her gross income, which is 300, okay? And then her employer is willing to put 75% of her 300, which is 2,475, right? So her employer is willing to save or, to contribute maybe. All right. So now you need to find the difference between this number that, her employer could have contributed, and the actual employer match. So the difference is going to be the money that actually she's missing out. So the difference between 2,475 minus 1,875 from here, okay? And it's going to be 600. So 600 is the money that actually she is missing out. Does it make sense, guys? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you guys online. Excellent. Okay, yeah, this is actually the last question. Yeah, thank you, Jacob. All right, so the last question, again, we have same information, but this one is saying how much more money will she have in her 401k if she contributes up to the max amount her employer will match this year. Okay, so basically, we need to add up her potential, contribution. So it means that this she is going to contribute 300 to max out her employer match. And when she contributes this much, her employer is going to match 75%. So this would be her employer contribution. Okay? And you need to add up these two, which is 50, 57, 75. Okay, yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And then you need to find the difference between this number and the money that actually she's saving right now. So 57.75 minus 43.75 is 1,400. All right. So in other words, if she save 300 into her 401k account, then her employer is matched 24.75, and then she will get 1,400 more than what she's currently, receiving into her 401k account. Does it make sense? Any questions, guys? Okay. I think that was the last question. So I think our presentation is over. If you guys have any questions, we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes. And good luck.